Hello everyone. New modules have arrived. First I'm going to talk about this one, the LP1 Lightplane from Soundmachines in Italy. It's a touchable control surface with three parameters: X, which is horizontal, Y, which is vertical, and Z, which is kind of like pressure sensitivity. I'll talk about the kinda aspect of that in a moment. And there's also a gate output here, which is high whenever the lights are on, which in normal mode is when you're touching the panel, but I'll get to that also in a moment. One other interesting thing about this module is it is reversible. The panel is printed so you can read it upside down or right side up. I'm not sure when you would want the jacks to all be at the bottom, because that feels like it would be in the way. But maybe there's a configuration where that makes sense. Anyway, Soundmachines designed it so that it could be installed either way. However, no matter which way you install it, one of the parameters is going to be backwards. The 0 point is in this corner, which for Y makes sense. 0 is at the bottom, but for X, it puts 0 at the right, which feels backwards to me. If you flip it over, then 0 would be at the left for X, but it would be at the top for Y, which feels upside down. I don't know. So no matter which way you flip it, one of the parameters will be kind of backwards. But this is a minor complaint. It's pretty easy to understand what's going on here. Let's get some audio going. I have everything hooked up to Platts. It is in the second green mode. I can't remember their names, but the second green mode. And X is controlling morph. Y is controlling timbre, and Z is controlling pitch. And the thing about the Z control, it doesn't really sense pressure, it senses the spread of the contact area. So if you stab it with your fingertip like you would your smartphone, for example, you don't get very good results. The Z works a lot better if you use the squishy, meaty part of your finger. But yeah, you can control 3 parameters with one finger. It's amazing. X and Y seem to move pretty smoothly, but I can hear steps in the Z parameter. There's digital artifacts. That's a little disappointing, but I can work with it. I wasn't expecting that for some reason. Anyway, there's also a gate, so let me plug that into the trigger input of Platts, and now every time I touch the panel, it triggers the envelope. Now there's a hold mode. When you press that, then it will retain the value that you last had it, so it won't snap back to 0 when you let go. However, it holds the gate high, so touching the panel again won't re-trigger the envelope because the gate is held high. You tap that again to turn it off. There is a record mode. This requires 2 fingers. You press the button and then you move around on the panel. And when you let go of record, it will play back your movements in a repeating loop, and it does have a momentary pause and re-triggers the gate with each repetition. So you can make complex LFOs this way, and then you tap the button again to stop it. And there you go, that's the Lightplane. Okay, I've patched up the other new module. Hoo-wee! This is a cable jungle, y'all. I doubt I would ever use it completely this way in a patch, but just for testing purposes, I just jammed all possible audio outputs into there. And what this is the Doepfer A150-8 Octal VC switch. And they are, well, 2 inputs, 1 output, or one input to 2 outputs. The switches can work either way, but it's a 2-to-1 switch. There are 8 of them, and they each have their own CV control as well as a manual button. They can be configured to either latch, in other words, to switch from one I/O to the other every time it receives a gate or a trigger, and stay there till it receives the next one, or you can set them to voltage mode, so it is number 2 is connected when the voltage is high, and number 1 is connected when the voltage is low. Both modes are useful. I think for my purposes, the toggling or flip-flop or latching mode, whatever you want to call it, that first one is more useful, I think. And they are also programmable, so you can set a channel as a master and several other channels as slave, and they cascade downward, so whatever state the master channel is in, all of the slave channels will imitate it. But anyway, just for test purposes, I have Dresno running. Since it has 8 gate outputs, I'm using all of them just to shuttle these switches back and forth, just to make sure the module works. I'm running all of the outputs through this homemade mixer, and the outputs are going into 2 channels of mixology, which I have panned right and left. So let's start turning things on. Woo! That's 8 channels of random sound sources ganged together in pairs and being switched back and forth randomly. Like I said, I doubt I would use it specifically this way in a patch, but it seemed to me to be useful for that kind of song structuring technique where you switch from one thing to another, and being able to automate those kind of changes I thought would be useful, and this module seemed like just the thing. It can be used for audio, it can be used for CV, and I look forward to patching up something more interesting than this in the future. But anyway, thanks, big thanks to my patrons who, as usual, provided the funds for all of this. And thanks to you folks on YouTube for watching me, and check out my Bandcamp if you got the time, and I'll see you later on.